So I asked the question, where do we begin? And people say begin anywhere. But honestly, I sincerely don't know where to start. But there's been so much in the news about Peter Obi and his migration to the NDC. So I want us to picture a man, the image of the lonely Londoner, the man in transit, moving through fog, with no fixed address, no permanent camp. He's always arriving, he's always adjusting, always searching for the next platform that could carry both him and his ambitions. But Peter B, unlike the lonely Londoner, doesn't walk alone. He has a convoy of conviction. He has a crowd that has turned movement into mythology. And that is where the story today is about to begin. But let us run you through a little bit about Peter Obi, his political journey, where he started from. Because for Peter Obi, his political journey has never been about standing still. It has been a long road of shifting tents and moving caravans, but he has never abandoned his destination because in politics they say rolling stones gather no moss. But in Peter Obi's case, the rolling stone gathers people because each time he moves, the crowd moves with him. So Peter Obi entered politics in 2003 under APGA. He contested for governor in Anambra State, lost in the usual Nigerian fashion, went to court and returned with victory in hand. That was the point where people realized that Obi understood both the chessboard and the courtroom. So from 2006 to 2014, Obi governed Anambra State, but he built his political identity around prudence, fiscal discipline, and a careful branding of his competence. He left his office with an image of a man who counted his kobos while others counted headlines. For his supporters, this was a proof of discipline, but for his critics, it was simply good packaging. But in politics, perception, they say, is half the harvest. Then came his forced migration. So from APGA, Obi moved to the PDP, not because of ideology, but because the Nigerian politics has never been a cathedral of ideology. It is a marketplace of alliance, that of survival and access. And so Obi became the running mate for Atiku Abubakar, stepping into national politics through the front door of the PDP. But as the saying goes, when the drum changes, the dancers must adjust their steps. So in 2022, Peter Obi again left the PDP, citing transactional primaries and the old disease of money politics. So now, Peter Obi crossed to the Labour Party, and suddenly, the Labour Party, which was a quiet political shelter, became a national movement. That was his second migration. He moved to the Labour Party ahead of 2023. And of course, the Labour Party witnessed voters' interest surge, and a party who once whispered began to row. So, Obi came third in that election. But third place in number did not translate to third place in influence because in defeat, Obi became louder than many victors. And then the Labour Party had a crack. So just like most political parties in Nigeria, after the election, the Labour Party witnessed some internal fractures, ownership disputes, too many captains fighting over a leadership. Obi, seeing the storm, did not wait, did what he has now made a political habit of doing. He moved again. Now, to the ADC. Now, in late 2025, Obi shifted to the ADC as many opposition forces began to align. So by March 2026, he formally got registered and the party saw a wave of new membership. But before the ink could even dry, another migration came. So around May 2nd and 3rd, Peter Obi together with Rabiu Kwakwanso reportedly left the ADC and again moved this time to the NDC, where they were publicly issued membership cards. But within 24 to 48 hours, the party claimed over 10 million new registrations. However, these numbers remain self-reported, so we should be treated with caution. But the point is, Obi may change platforms, but he does not travel light. Different houses, same pilgrim. But now, why am I going to with this story? Before now, do not forget on April 25, 2026, opposition leaders came together in Ibadan under the chairmanship of the former president Olusegun Obasanjo. The essence was to unite, to consolidate, and to work toward a single consensus presidential candidate for 2027. But the aim of that was to avoid splitting votes, so the opposition will not have its way easy to 2027. But we are going somewhere with this conversation. But politics, they say, as always, hides its quarrel in polite communique. So the Ibadan Declaration was an aspiration, not contractual. It spoke of consensus, but left the most difficult and delicate question hanging in the air, which was, Who leads? And on whose platform? And by what political understanding? This is where the silence has begun to matter, because the communique spoke boldly about unity, they spoke about coalition, they also spoke about single presidential candidates. One of the most sensitive questions was reportedly left untouched, which was zoning. And in Nigerian politics, this is not a footnote. This is the fuse. So rumors have persisted that one of the most important parts of the 9-point understanding, the question of power rotating and zoning, was deliberately left out of the final declaration. If true, that omission was not minor. It was structural, because consensus without zoning is not consensus, it is postponement. And from most accounts, Peterobi was fully not satisfied, particularly with that silence. Not necessarily because he rejected the coalition, but because the declaration left untouched one of the most sensitive questions to ignore and too dangerous to confront carelessly. Who leads? From where? Under whose platform? By whose turn? So these are not small details. These are the pillars that should hold the communique together. And so while others went about talking loudly about Ibadan, Obi went quiet. Not silent, just quiet. And in politics, quiet is rarely empty. Sometimes, just like the lonely Londoner, it is calculation in plan, looking for the next platform to carry his plans, his ambition, and his people. So Obi eventually moved to the NDC. So the question is no longer what the Ibadan Declaration promised. The question is whether the Ibadan Declaration still stands. It is a truth at the time. Take care and have a nice day.